Zawadi never thought one day could change everything she believed about love. She thought she was just a kitchen maid, a debt wife, sold off by her father like a piece of livestock. But now, she was standing in the middle of a grand living room, inside one of the biggest mansions in all of Accra, facing a refined woman with glowing eyes, and the man she believed was poor, kneeling before her. "Kobe." His voice was soft. He looked up, his hands shaking. Not from fear, but from something deeper. "Zawadi, will you marry me? Not because of a debt, but because of love?" Zawadi froze. Her hands flew to her mouth. Tears blurred her vision. What did you just say?" The elegant woman, Madam Ayo, smiled gently. "My son is not a security guard. He's the heir to Ayokwa Group. And he chose you, not out of pity, but because you were the only one who saw his heart before his wealth." Zawadi couldn't breathe. She stumbled back. The world spun. The man she thought was poor was a billionaire in disguise. The love she chose was everything she had dreamed of her whole life. It felt like her blood was flowing in reverse. But in that very moment, she knew one thing for sure. If destiny is real, then the day my father sold me was the day it all truly began. They called the village Ngolo, a strip of scorched land where red dust blanketed dreams and cold rice. No electricity, no clean water, no hope. Children here grew up on dirt instead of milk, and yelling instead of lullabies. And in the middle of it all was a girl named Zawadi. Her name meant gift in Swahili, but life never treated her like one. Zawadi was 19. Her natural curls were always tied back. Her face was gentle, but her eyes, they were always distant, like they'd seen too many things, worth forgetting. Her mother died when she was just 13, taken by a vicious case of malaria. From that day, her father, Tembo, was never the same. He laid down his hoe, picked up the bottle, and poured all his sorrow into his only daughter. Less than a year later, he brought home a stranger, a woman named Muikali, who would soon become Zawadi's stepmother. From that moment on, Zawadi was no longer a daughter in her own home. She was the water carrier, the woodcutter, the cook, the farmhand, the maid without a wage. On nights without food, she curled up beside the dying embers of the fire, hugging her growling stomach. Before the rooster even crowed, she was already walking over 3 kilometers to fetch water from the well, while her father and stepmother snored peacefully inside the main hut. One day, an old woman in the village whispered, "That girl Zawadi is a light trapped in a clay jar. If someone ever opens it, she'll shine." But the woman never dared say it out loud. No one crossed Tembo. He was known as the madman wearing a father's mask. Everyone in Ngolo felt sorry for her, but only in silence, because here, fear was stronger than kindness. And Zawadi lived like that, a ghost in her own home, for 6 long years, until one day, it was the driest month of the year. The wind kicked up red dust that choked the sky. The heat curled mango leaves and burned skin like an open flame. Zawadi was sweeping the yard with a broken broomstick, sweat dripping, stomach aching, when a voice echoed behind her, "Sir, please, I beg you, pay me my wages. I've been working for 3 months." She turned around. It was the hired hand who usually trimmed the grass behind the house. His name was Kobe, a stranger from the city. He wore a faded shirt with torn shoulders and flip-flops with soles hanging by threads. For 3 months, Kobe had worked for her father, plowing the land, planting yams, clearing brush, hauling manure, everything. But every time he asked for his pay, Tembo would say, "Next week or the week after. Let me sell my pumpkins first." But today, Kobe wasn't waiting. He stood tall. Sweat glistened on his forehead. His voice trembled, but was firm. "I need the money to return to the city. I need to survive." Tembo smirked, eyes glazed with alcohol. "Money? I don't have any, but I've got something else. He glanced sideways, then pointed at Zawadi. "Take the girl. We'll call the debt settled." No one spoke. No one laughed. No one stepped in. Zawadi stood frozen. The broom dropped from her hand. Her voice cracked, trembling. "Papa? What are you saying?" "Shut up!" Tembo barked. "Someone's actually willing to take you. That's the luckiest day of your life." Mwikali folded her arms, a smile like a snake slithering across her lips. "Take her. One less mouth to feed." Zawadi collapsed to her knees. She clung to her father's leg, tears streaming down her face. "Please don't. I beg you. I don't want to go." No one answered. Kobe looked at her for a long time. His eyes held something, pity and pain. Finally, he nodded. "I'll take her. Not because of the debt, but because I can't leave a human being like this behind." That night, Zawadi packed everything she owned into a black plastic bag. 3 old outfits, 1 pair of broken sandals. No one said goodbye, no blessings, no prayers. Only Sam, her half-brother, hid behind the banana trees, tears falling quietly, whispering, "Don't forget me, sis." Zawadi turned away. She didn't dare look back. It was the last time she ever stepped out of Ngolo, the village that once called her a gift, but never once bothered to open her. Kobe wasn't like any man Zawadi had ever met. He was quiet, reserved. His eyes always seemed to be thinking about something far beyond what his hands were doing. During his 3 months working in Ngolo, he never once complained, never argued, even when he was assigned work 3 times heavier than anyone else. Every day, Kobe rose before the roosters. He hauled water, spread fertilizer, tilled the soil, planted cassava, chopped wood. Sometimes he even helped the elderly in the village when no one was watching. At first, the villagers thought he was just another failed city boy, back in the countryside trying to survive. But over time, they realized something about him wasn't ordinary. One day, a child fell into a flooded field and nearly drowned. Kobe jumped in without hesitation, pulled the boy out, then walked away like it was nothing. They called him the man with the silent heart. As for Zawadi, she avoided his eyes at first. She didn't trust any man. Her father had taught her one thing only. Men are born to command. Women are born to be beaten. But Kobe, he never once looked at her like a possession. Only once. Just once. When she was carrying water across the yard, her back drenched in sweat. He looked at her and gently asked, "You must be tired, huh?" Zawadi didn't answer. She was afraid. Afraid that speaking would get her punished. But Kobe simply nodded and walked away. From that moment on, she started to notice him. And then came that day, the day her father used her as payment for Kobe's labor. Zawadi thought Kobe would refuse. After all, who would want to take in a girl like her? Skinny, poor, no dowry, no name. But instead he said, "I'll take her. Not because of the debt, but because I can't leave a human being like this behind." Zawadi remembered exactly how it felt, like someone had reached into her chest and squeezed her heart. And yet, for the first time, she felt someone was standing on her side. That night, she packed in silence. No goodbyes, no hug, not even a glance from the father who had just sold her. Only the soft sobbing of her half-brother. "Sis, please be happy." Zawadi bit her lip, nodded, and didn't look back. Kobe was already waiting outside the village gate. He didn't hold her hand. Didn't say anything sentimental. Just one quiet sentence. "Let's go, we don't belong here anymore." They left Ngolo on the back of a cargo truck. Zawadi sat among burlap sacks, knees tucked in, clutching a plastic bag that held 3 old outfits and a pair of broken sandals. The ride lasted nearly 8 hours, over bumpy dirt roads, through sun-scorched fields, past towns she had only heard about in stories. She said nothing, and Kobe didn't either. But every now and then, he glanced her way, as if trying to read her thoughts. They reached the city at sunset. Zawadi was overwhelmed by the lights, the people, the noise, and the buildings that reached into the sky. She clung to her bundle, trembling, like someone stepping into a whole new world. "This is Accra," Kobe said, "a place where anyone can start over, if they're brave enough." Zawadi looked at him. She didn't know if she was brave. She only knew this. It was the first time she had ever left the village, and the man beside her wasn't someone who bought her. He had chosen her. They took a tricycle into a quiet suburb, lined with neem trees whispering in the breeze. Kobe stopped in front of a black iron gate. Behind it stood a large ivory-colored house. Zawadi was speechless. She had never seen anything so clean, so spacious. But Kobe didn't lead her into the big house. Instead, he took her around the back to a small tin-roofed room. "This is where I live," he said. "It's small, but it's safe, and no one will hurt you here." Zawadi stood still, taking it all in. A bed, a window, a stove. Peace. She looked at Kobe for the first time. Really looked. His sun-worn face, his calloused hands, and his eyes, not filled with lust, but with restraint and respect. She turned toward the window. A sliver of sunlight slipped through the curtain and touched her cheek. And for the first time, Zawadi whispered in her heart, "If this is fate, then maybe it's not so bad after all." Accra at night felt like stepping into a dream lit by electricity. Skyscrapers glowed like giant lanterns in the dark. Cars zipped past like mechanical fireflies, and the hum of voices, warm, alive, never seemed to stop. Zawadi had never seen anything like it. She came from a place where daylight was marked by the rooster's crow, and nightfall meant silence, sleep, surrender. But here, even the night had to make room for light. As they stepped off the tricycle, Kobe led her down a narrow alley draped in blooming bougainvillea, the air tinged with the scent of dust and distant cooking fires. He stopped in front of a black iron gate, just tall enough to hide what lay behind. Through the bars, she could see a tidy courtyard, green trees swaying gently, and a soft ivory house resting in the shadows like a quiet promise. Kobe noticed her gaze lingering on the big house. "We don't live there," he said, gently breaking the silence. "That's where the owners stay. I'm the guard and gardener. They let me stay out back, in the boys' quarters." Zawadi nodded. No questions, no disappointment. To her, a place with a roof, a bed, and no belt hanging on the wall already felt like wealth. He walked her around the main house to a small building tucked behind. Inside, a simple bed, a small wooden chair, a stove, a curtain covering the bathroom door. No air conditioning, just an old standing fan that hummed like a tired bee. But everything smelled clean, and for the first time in years, she felt safe. "This is your bed," Kobe said, not meeting her eyes. "If it's uncomfortable, I can sleep in the chair." Zawadi shook her head softly. "No need. I've spent most of my life on dirt floors. A bed like this feels like magic." That night, she didn't sleep. Not right away. She lay staring at the ceiling, arms across her chest, trying to slow a heart that wasn't used to peace. Kindness had always been a warning sign. In her village, kindness came before a trap. But Kobe? He didn't touch her, didn't ask questions, didn't try to make her laugh. He simply let her breathe, and that moved her more than any sweet word ever could. The next morning, she woke not to yelling, but to the smell of breakfast. Fried eggs, hot corn cakes, warm porridge. She stepped out, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Morning," Kobe said over his shoulder from the tiny stove. "Made something simple. You hungry?" She nodded, voice soft. "No one's ever cooked for me before." Kobe smiled. "Then let's make this day the first." They ate in silence. Not the heavy silence of tension, but the gentle quiet of two people learning how not to hurt each other. After breakfast, Kobe handed her a small bag. Inside, a soft beige cotton dress. "I don't know your size," he said, almost apologetic, "but I thought maybe you'd want something clean to wear today." Zawadi stared at the dress, then at him. Her eyes welled, not with tears, but something older, deeper. The ache of being seen. She didn't say thank you, but she didn't need to. Her silence said it all. Later, they walked to the front of the big house. The gate opened. A regal black woman, dressed in deep blue batik and a matching head wrap, stepped out. Her presence filled the space without trying. "Good morning, Kobe," she said with a knowing smile. "And this must be—" Kobe turned toward Zawadi, his voice steady. "This is Zawadi, my wife." Zawadi froze. "Wife?" He called her wife? The woman, Madame Ayo, stepped forward, took Zawadi's hand gently, and smiled. "What a beautiful girl. Beautiful name. Beautiful eyes. I like you already." Zawadi mumbled, "Good morning, ma'am." "Call me Madame Ayo," the woman said, "and consider this home, if you want it to be." Back in the room, Zawadi sat on the edge of the bed. Her hands still shook. "You called me your wife?" Kobe gave a small laugh. "In the village, your father gave you to me. But here, I'll only call you that, if you say yes." Zawadi looked at him, long and hard, then nodded. It wasn't love, not yet, and trust, still a fragile thread. But what bloomed in her chest that day was something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Zawadi used to think, there are things I will never have, like a full night's sleep, like a morning that doesn't begin with shouting, or a kick to the back. But sometimes the things that feel most out of reach arrive when you've stopped asking for them. It was her third morning in Accra. Zawadi woke up not to the snap of a whip against dirt, but to the sound of birds singing outside the window. Sunlight slipped through the curtain slats, landing on her face like the gentle arms of a mother from another world. She opened her eyes slowly, confused. No one was calling her. No one was shouting orders. There was no one, only the warm smell of fried bread and corn porridge wafting in from the little kitchen. She stepped out, hair tousled, still uncombed. Kobe stood at the stove, stirring a pan of hot oil. He wore a faded gray t-shirt and striped house pants, looking more like a husband than a stranger. He turned at the sound of her footsteps. "Good morning," he said. Zawadi replied softly. "Morning." Kobe smiled. "I made breakfast. You barely ate yesterday. I figured you have a few years of nutrition to catch up on." Zawadi let out a laugh, a real one, not the kind meant to please someone, just a laugh, like rain breaking through a dry season. They ate in a quiet kindness. No one rushed, no one grabbed the best bite. Zawadi sat at the table, not beside it, not watching others eat first. She ate as if she mattered. After breakfast, Kobe handed her a small notebook and a pen. "I don't know how far you went in school, but if you want, we can start again. One word at a time." Zawadi looked at the notebook, her fingers trembling. She had reached 6th grade before she was pulled out to work. Since then, letters and books became luxuries, like new clothes, like dreams. She gripped the notebook. "Thank you, but why are you doing all this for me?" Kobe paused, then said quietly, "Because I believe you deserve it. And because I once wished someone had done the same for my mother, but no one ever did." The day passed slowly, gently. Zawadi cleaned the floors, washed dishes, watered plants. But not because anyone told her to. She did it because she wanted this place to stay clean, as if clearing the dust outside might help cleanse the scars inside. That evening, they sat on the porch and watched the stars. Kobe asked, "If you could do anything one day, what would it be?" Zawadi didn't hesitate. "Go back to school, become a doctor, heal women like me, women the world ignored." Kobe smiled. "One day you will, I believe that." In that moment, Zawadi didn't need love. She didn't need hugs. She didn't need kisses. She just needed someone to believe in her. And Kobe did, with no promises, no conditions. She turned toward him, voice barely above a whisper. "In the village, people only touched me to hurt me, or to take what wasn't theirs. But here, you've never touched me unless I allowed it. For the first time, I feel human." Kobe didn't reply. He just looked up at the stars. Then, softly, he said, "Zawadi, your name means gift, but I don't think anyone ever let you be one. From now on, I'll be the first to call you by your true name, in word and in heart." Zawadi had no idea that morning would be the most fateful of her life. The sky was clear, the sun was soft, and the scent of dew still clung to the leaves behind the house. She had just finished washing a pot when Kobe stepped inside, wearing a crisp white shirt, holding a small cloth in one hand. "Zawadi," he called gently. "Put on the beige dress I gave you. There's someone I want you to meet." Zawadi hesitated. Her heart raced. He had never asked her to dress up before. Wasn't today just like any other day? "Who's waiting?" she asked. Kobe smiled. "You'll see. Don't worry. No one's going to hurt you." When she stepped out of the room, in the soft, flowing dress, her hair neatly pulled back, Kobe couldn't hide his smile. And in his eyes, Zawadi saw something bigger than joy, something like certainty, as if he knew today would change everything. They walked the narrow path toward the grand villa. Zawadi's hands trembled. Kobe didn't hold her hand. He simply walked beside her, as if he knew she needed space to step into a new world on her own. The tall black gate swung open. A dazzling living room appeared. Polished marble floors, silk-covered sofas, a chandelier shimmering from the high ceiling like frozen stars. Zawadi froze, not from awe, but because she had never stepped into anything that looked so much like someone else's dream. Madame Ayo appeared, dressed in turquoise brocade, her calm smile like that of someone who already knew how the story would end. "Zawadi," she said softly, "you are a good girl. You have a pure heart. And today, there's something I want to witness." Zawadi didn't understand until Kobe got down on one knee. The entire room went still. Zawadi heard nothing but the pounding of her own heart, loud, clear, like a war drum. "What was he doing?" "Zawadi," Kobe said, looking straight into her eyes. "You don't owe me anything, and I owe you nothing either. But if fate brought you here, I don't want to let it slip away quietly." He opened a small box. Inside was a silver ring, etched with traditional Akan patterns, sparkling under the lights. "Will you marry me? Not because of debt, but because of your heart?" Zawadi couldn't breathe. Her ears buzzed. It felt too real, too impossible. Who are you?" she whispered, taking a step back. "I thought you were a gardener, poor, just like me." Madame Ayo stepped forward, resting a hand on her shoulder. "My son, Kobe Ayo, is the heir to the Ayokwa group. He chose to live like a common man because he doesn't believe in love bought with money. And then, he met you." Zawadi stepped back again, tears rushing to her eyes faster than she could stop them. "Why didn't you tell me? You let me believe we were both poor, both beneath the world. And you lived right behind this house the whole time. The real owner?" Kobe stood slowly, his voice steady but soft. "Because I've been betrayed before, Zawadi. Someone once said she loved me, until I stopped giving her money. I needed to know, if someone stayed, it wasn't for what I had, but for who I am." Zawadi was silent. She felt chosen, but also tested. After a long pause, she walked forward, took the ring in both hands, and looked deeply into Kobe's eyes. "I don't love you, not yet. But I believe, if there's anyone worthy of me learning how to love again, it's the man who cooked for me, who believed in my dreams, before I dared to dream them." Kobe smiled, his eyes glassy with tears. Madame Ayo clapped softly, not with grandeur, but with the quiet joy of a mother who knows her son has found the right woman. And Zawadi, in that moment, was no longer the girl sold for 3 months of labor. She was a queen, waiting for her crown. After that strange proposal, Zawadi thought the worst was behind her, that the light was finally bright enough to keep the dark from returning. But the brighter the light, the sharper the shadows. 3 days later, while Zawadi was chopping vegetables in the small kitchen behind the villa, the door flew open, and a man stepped in like he owned the world. Malik, Madame Ayo's nephew, the son of her sister who lived in America. The neighbors called him the prince without a crown. Handsome, schooled in Europe, with eyes that looked like they could read every secret you'd ever buried. Zawadi turned, nodded politely. "Good afternoon." Malik didn't answer. He stood still, scanning her from head to toe, and then smiled. Not the smile of a friend, but the smirk of a man who'd already chosen his prey. "So, you're Zawadi?" he said, his voice deep, smooth as honey. "The one everyone's been talking about?" Zawadi nodded, her eyes fixed on the cutting board. "Kobe made a good choice." Malik stepped closer, leaning in to whisper, "A village girl with eyes like yours? That's rare. That's a treasure." Zawadi's grip on the knife tightened. Her hand trembled, but she said nothing, because silence was how you survived. Malik didn't stop. He leaned against the counter, voice lowered. "You know, in this city, a girl like you, if she chooses right, never has to worry about groceries, cooking, or school fees." Zawadi turned slowly, her face calm. "I've already made my choice." "Oh," Malik chuckled. It wasn't warm. It was sharp, like laughter with claws. "You mean Kobe, my cousin? The one pretending to be the noble poor man in this little love drama?" Zawadi didn't respond. Malik stepped closer. "Do you really think he loves you? An heir to a corporation, choosing a village girl with no money, no degree. I have dignity," Zawadi said, locking eyes with him for the first time. "And it's not for sale." Malik's smile vanished. The room felt colder. He took a step back, nodding. "Maybe you just need more time. But trust me, love doesn't feed you. When you're hungry, or need documents or a visa, you'll realize who can really help." Then he turned and left, leaving the kitchen door swinging and the air thick with smoke-like discomfort. That night, Zawadi sat on the porch, knees hugged to her chest. Kobe arrived and paused. "Is something wrong?" he asked. Zawadi looked up, voice small but clear. "Malik came to the kitchen today. He said things he shouldn't have." Kobe frowned. "Did he touch you?" "No, but his eyes did more than his hands. He said I was making the wrong choice, that love can't replace real life." Kobe was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Malik believes everything has a price, but you don't." Zawadi turned toward him. "Are you sure?" "Here, I'm an outsider. I have nothing. Malik has power, a name, and maybe even Madam Ayo's silent approval." Kobe looked at her and spoke slowly. "But I have something Malik never will, your trust. And if that's all I have, I'll fight with everything I've got." But the next day, it didn't stop. Malik started showing up more often. Always when Kobe wasn't home. Always when Zawadi was in the kitchen or hanging laundry or watering the plants. His eyes were never respectful. His words always hinted, like the whole world was a stage and Zawadi was just a prize waiting for the right bidder. One afternoon, while Kobe was out, Malik stepped into the boys' quarters, without knocking. Zawadi jumped up. "You shouldn't be in here." "I just want to talk," Malik said, taking a seat, legs crossed. "Let me be direct. I want you, and I can change your life, right now." Zawadi stepped back. "Leave, now." Malik didn't move. "Formasan forto me tuta supporteronam." You'd rather live in this tiny room with a pretend poor guy instead of living real life? I can take you to England, to Canada, anywhere. Kobe can't. Zawadi met his eyes, this time without fear. "You're wrong. I chose Kobe. Not because of what he has, but because he didn't need to have anything to make me feel respected. You think I'm naive? I'm not. I'm just not for sale." Malik stood, his face hardened. "You'll regret this. If holding on to my dignity is wrong," Zawadi said, "then I'll be wrong for the rest of my life." Zawadi thought Malik was the peak of the storm. But she was wrong. The real storm came from the one place she thought was safest. Madam Ayo. That afternoon, after rinsing her hands in the main kitchen, Zawadi was about to leave when a soft voice called behind her. "Zawadi, are you free? Come in, I'd like to talk." She turned around. Madam Ayo stood at the entrance to the living room, graceful as ever, wearing her usual warm smile and a classic gold bracelet on her wrist. Zawadi nodded and followed her in. The room looked as elegant as always, but something felt off, as if even the furniture was holding its breath. "Sit down," Madam Ayo said, pouring tea. "I just have a few questions." Zawadi sat, hands folded in her lap. For the first time, Madame Ayo's eyes didn't feel warm. They were polished granite. Zawadi, you're a smart girl, humble, respectful. But do you realize you're part of a much bigger game than you think? Zawadi said nothing. Yes, Kobe is my son. And yes, he has the right to choose his wife. But do you think choosing you was a wise decision? If you don't think so, ma'am, I'll leave, Zawadi said calmly. Wait, Madame Ayo raised her hand. I'm not sending you away. I just want to show you another option. Zawadi looked up. Malik, he's my nephew. He truly cares about you. He can send you to school, give you a life Kobe can't provide right now. So, you want me to leave the man who loves me for the one with more money? Zawadi asked, her fear gone. What I mean is, Madame Ayo replied, some marriages are built on feelings, others on opportunity. I'm offering you an opportunity. Silence. Only the ticking of the antique wall clock filled the space. Zawadi rose slowly, her eyes locked on the woman who once called her daughter-in-law, who once hugged her with smiles. Do you think I'm that cheap? No, Madame Ayo said, unfazed. But everyone has a price. Zawadi nodded. Tears welled up, but her voice held steady. Then allow me to not put a price on myself. You may leave, but remember this, Malik won't stop, and Kobe can't protect you forever. Zawadi pressed her lips together, then gave a small bow. If dignity can't survive in this mansion, then I'll carry it to the small room outside. I'd rather wash dishes in love than drink wine in shame. She walked out, fast. The tears came only when she reached the garden. But she didn't stop. Her feet moved faster, as if she were trying to outrun not just the house, but the twisted version of love they tried to force on her. When she reached the boys' quarters, Kobe was sitting on the step, face full of worry. Zawadi, where did you— I spoke to your mother, she interrupted. And Malik won't stop. Kobe shot to his feet. I'm sorry, I didn't know she'd go that far. Zawadi grabbed his hand, firm. I don't need apologies. I need one thing only. What is it? Let's leave, as soon as we can. She added, we have something. A little money, and a love that can't be bought. I don't want to stay somewhere where every look questions whether I'm trying to climb. I want to live where I can hold my head high, even if it's in a small rented room down the street. Kobe went still. Then he held her hand, eyes misty. You're the first woman who dared walk away from it all. For me. For myself too, Zawadi said. I refuse to become the discounted version of who I am. That night, they packed in silence and left the mansion quietly. No one stopped them. No one said goodbye. Only their footsteps echoed through the night, blending with the chorus of insects. And Zawadi knew. She hadn't been thrown out. She had chosen to walk away. Like a queen. That morning, the sky was heavy and gray, as if even heaven couldn't decide between sun and rain. Zawadi woke early. She swept the small room, folded the blankets, cleaned the stove, as if she were preparing to leave again. But this time, it wasn't to escape pain. It was to walk away from shame, dressed in silk. Kobe wasn't home. He'd said he was out looking for a rental. But on the wooden table, Zawadi saw something that made her freeze. A thick envelope, packed with cash. Neat, intentional. More money than she had ever seen in her life. She sank into the chair, her thoughts spinning. What was this? Rent? Food? Or a quiet apology? Just then, the door opened. Kobe walked in. He smiled, but when he saw her face, the smile faded. What's this money for? Zawadi's voice was soft, but carried weight. Kobe sat across from her. His eyes didn't flinch. I saved that before I met you. At first, it was for starting a business, a little restaurant, but he paused, watching her. But after I met you, strong, honest, and impossible to buy, I knew someone like you deserved an education, deserved to finish the dream you left behind. Zawadi was silent. Then she stood, walked to the table, and gently pushed the envelope toward him. Use it, she said. For what? Kobe blinked. Open your restaurant. Let's start over. Somewhere new. We'll rent a tiny room. I'll help you cook. And when the place gets busy, I'll study, step by step. But not with money you sacrificed for me. Kobe looked at her like she'd just spoken in a language he thought was extinct. "Zawadi, don't you understand? I want you to study. I want you to succeed. You don't have to wait." She took his hand. "And I want you to succeed too. I don't want your dream to die because of your kindness to me." The room went still. Then Kobe pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "God, Zawadi, you're not a gift, you're a miracle." That night, they packed what little they had. Some clothes, a few pots, and 2 hearts brave enough to start from 0. The next morning, they moved into a tiny room near Agbogbloshi Market. Loud, crowded, alive. But real. A week later, Kobe rented a small stall at the market corner. He hung a sign that read, "Zawadi's Kitchen, made with love and chicken." Locals grew curious. They tasted. Then came back. Again. And again. Because in Zawadi's food wasn't just spice, there was soul. That evening, after cleaning up, they sat outside their room, sharing their last meal of the day, plain rice, fried fish, and a handful of sautéed greens. Zawadi asked quietly, "Kobe, can I ask you something? Anything. Why didn't you tell me who you really were? From the beginning." Kobe thought for a moment. "Because before you, I'd been betrayed. People loved me for the car, the wallet, the name. But when the money stopped, so did the love." He looked up. "I needed someone who could see me, not through a bank statement." Zawadi smiled. "I didn't see you as poor. I saw you as kind. And kindness was a kind of wealth no money can buy." The moon was bright that night, as if heaven itself was writing blessings in beams of light. Zawadi leaned on his shoulder and whispered, "We'll be okay, won't we?" Kobe squeezed her hand. "We won't just be okay. We're rewriting the meaning of success." The day Zawadi stepped onto the graduation stage, the entire auditorium rose to their feet in applause. Not because she was beautiful, not because she had the highest grades, but because she was a living legend at Accra Medical University, the woman who rose from wounds and turned them into wings. A white coat draped over her shoulders, a medical degree in her hand, and her name echoed through the microphone. "Dr. Zawadi Tembo?" From the front row, Kobe stood up first, shouting like a proud child. "That's my wife! That's the queen of my life!" The crowd erupted in laughter, but no one thought it was over the top, because everyone knew he loved her long before the world knew her name. After the ceremony, Kobe wrapped her in a long, tight embrace. "You did it. From a tiny kitchen to the dream with a stethoscope. I'm more proud of you than anything I've ever built." Zawadi smiled through her tears. "You believed in me, before I believed in myself." A week later, Kobe took her for a walk. They stopped in front of a golden gate. Behind it stood a white villa with a balcony blooming with bougainvillea, palm trees lining the path, and a small fountain glistening in the center. "Why are we here?" Zawadi asked, clutching her medical bag. Kobe pulled out a set of keys and placed them in her hand. "They once said you didn't deserve to live in a mansion. So today, let's see what they say when you own one." Zawadi froze. She had never dreamed of mansions. To her, a good fan and a rice cooker were already luxury. "Kobe, you're joking, right?" Kobe shook his head. "This is your house. I promised I'd give you a home and a car. Today I'm delivering both." Zawadi burst into tears, burying her face in his shoulder. "I don't need a mansion. I only need this heart. And this heart chose you the first time you carried water across the yard, not knowing I was watching." That evening, as they stepped into the villa, Zawadi ran her hand across the carved wooden door. Not to inspect it, but as a silent thank you to fate. From being sold by my father, to being given a home by my husband. What a strange, beautiful world. Sitting on the pristine white sofa in their new living room, Zawadi suddenly placed her hand on her belly. She smiled. Kobe noticed. "What is it? Are you in pain?" Zawadi reached into her bag and pulled out an ultrasound photo. "I was going to tell you tonight, but I couldn't wait." She placed the paper in his hands. "I'm pregnant, 3 months." Kobe stood frozen, then let out a joyful scream. "Oh my God, our baby! We're having a baby!" He dropped to his knees, pressed his face to her stomach. "Hello, little one. I'm your father, Kobe. I found your mother when the world had given up on her. And your mother, she's the strongest, kindest, most beautiful woman I've ever known." Zawadi cried, but they weren't tears of pain. They were the tears of someone who had finally made it home. "I don't know if I'll be a good mother," she whispered. "But if love can raise a human being, then our child will have the whole universe." Every morning in the white villa, when Zawadi opened her eyes and turned to the side, where Kobe still lay asleep, hand resting gently on her belly, she silently thanked herself for not choosing the easy road. She didn't choose wealth right away. She chose respect. And from that respect, love began to grow, like a tree sprouting through stone. Zawadi never forgot where she came from. That's why every Friday she returned to the old market, the place of their first kitchen. She didn't just shop for groceries. She taught little girls, for free, how to wash their hands, check blood pressure, and give basic first aid. But most importantly, she taught them, no one has the right to put a price on you. People often asked her, "What's Dr. Zawadi's secret to success?" She smiled and replied, "A husband who knew how to give me space when I needed it most, and hold my hand when I felt most alone." And Kobe? He was no longer the man in disguise. He didn't have to be. He was himself, a soon-to-be father, a present partner, and a man who once gave up his title just to find a gaze that didn't hunger for his wealth. "I used to have everything, except someone who truly loved me," he often told friends. "Until I met a girl sold like a bag of rice, but who still carried the eyes of a queen." They didn't live to get revenge. They didn't live to prove anything. They just lived like two ordinary people with an extraordinary kind of love. Years later, when their daughter, little Naya, asked her mother, "Mom, is it true Grandpa once sold you?" Zawadi knelt down, wrapped her arms around her daughter, and said softly, "Yes, my love. But I wasn't sold forever. I was simply tested to see who truly deserved to have me." Zawadi's story had no revenge, no flashy riches, only a love built with courage, fed by kindness, and guarded by faith. Love cannot be bought, but with enough patience and enough strength, it can be built, even with nothing but two empty hands. From a forgotten village to a sun-drenched villa, from being sold to rebuilding trust, Zawadi is more than a character. She's a symbol for anyone who's ever been overlooked, undervalued, or given a price. Because a person's true worth is never in a number, but in how they walk through the dark. What lesson did you take from her story? Share it. Your words might be the light someone out there needs to hear. Leave a comment, pass this story on, and don't forget to subscribe to Tales of Black, where black stories speak and silence is broken. Thank you for staying until the very end. If this story stirred something in you, leave a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. Tap the bell and let the next tale find its way to you, just when you're ready.